Hello and welcome to the You Can Do It show. I am your host, Pascal Rehm, and here today with us we have Sean Davy. He is a director and writer. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Let's have some fun.
To start off, just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background.
Okay. I'm definitely an adventurer. I love extreme sports. I am a little bit of an eccentric dude, I guess. A lot of people would say I am weird and strange and different and everything. But yeah, I love life, love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and yeah, I'm a filmmaker.
Awesome. What is your latest project?
So, the Parricidal Effect has been my passion project for, I'd say, about 3 years. It started out as a much bigger project than what it turned out to be, in the sense that it was a far bigger script, and then we had to kind of bring it down because we couldn't raise the kind of money. So that's why it took a little longer, and then we started filming, I'd say, February of last year, and we finished our last scene in August, and ever since then we've been doing post-production. So of course, as you know, we filmed it in the most extreme winter that Michigan had in, around 20 years or something?
That was.
And we tried to kill you several times, I believe. So spoiler alert, how do you die?
I get frozen after getting caught in a bear trap.
Yeah, and fortunately you don't have claustrophobic issues because we've stuck you in a freezer for however long.
So, how old were you when you knew you wanted to be a director or writer?
I was about 16, but actually
16,
I started.
wow.
Yeah, I started wanting to be an actor, believe it or not, and then my folks never really supported me on it. There was always like, we brought up in a very religious home, and my father was like, the film industry is very immoral. It's it's rude, and it's like it's shocking, and it's not going to really meet the standards of our churches. And then but it was what I wanted to do. So
Gotta follow your passion.
exactly, I did exactly that. But what I found was when I started getting involved in the industry much later on, I think it was more of a way of testing the waters, seeing where I was good at, finding my niche. and then I guess you can say I got carried away with behind the scenes, and I forgot about the whole acting thing. But I did end up acting in a few of my own films, but really, really minor roles, because it's very difficult to be a cameraman and act at the same time.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I can imagine that would be
Nowadays,
kind of difficult.
With technology, you can probably do it. You just wear something and the camera follows you. But
Yeah,
then it was hard.
They made something like that actually. The
Lily.
like put a little wristband on and it follows you.
Correct, yeah, it's all GPS. So today it would be possible, but back then it wasn't. So yeah, I just got kind of carried away with behind the scenes, and I loved the camera. I loved working the camera, and from there it just turned into directing, and acting kind of took a sidestep.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's
16.
cool. I did not know you wanted to be an actor at first. That's
I know
something new to me.
Maybe it'll still happen. Who knows?
Well, you're acting right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty about being a director is I can call the shots on who gets in front of the camera. So maybe one day I'll like a character so much I'll just throw myself in there and put the actor aside.
So, what does your typical day look like? Since you're in post-production.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a strange thing in LA where I'm sort of based right now. I kind of live out of my van because all the money I make is going straight back into the movie. So I really just have a bed in my van, and the rest of the time I'm out enjoying LA, right? But the day kind of starts off with about 7 o'clock. I'll wake up, go to the gym, work, do about 40 minutes of swimming just to kind of wake up and attack the world. And then I hate traffic. I have a thing about traffic. So I have a bicycle, and I pretty much cycle the whole of LA to get to all my meetings and that. And then I have to run and find a restroom to change into decent clothes, and then lock my bicycle away so it doesn't get stolen. And then, I'll go by my meetings, and then because obviously I don't have a permanent base, I will utilize all the coffee shops through the area, even though I don't drink coffee. But I'll utilize all the coffee shops, and I'll just steal all their Wi-Fi for all the stuff that I have to do, whether it's editing. It's kind of funny because the one coffee shop I have, it's a Starbucks near Burbank, and I kind of have a table like this, and I set up all my hard drives, and it's like I have a whole workstation. People still look at me funny, and they're like, do you work here or something? I'm like, no, I'm just having coffee. So I have a Starbucks coffee next to me, pretending that I'm utilizing their services. And then I'll utilize the Wi-Fi coffee shops until about 11 o'clock at night to get all my work done or scripting or whatever. And then back to the gym for an hour, and then go back to my van, utilize the battery until it blows or stops, and that's basically like 2 o'clock, and then that's me. I'm lights out.
Wow.
So that's the day in the life of Ryan in LA.
You ever been kicked out of Starbucks?
Several times, yeah. Yeah, because they were like, excuse me, sir, you haven't really purchased anything, so we really need you to leave to make this table available. It's not, no problem, I'll be back. Or I just go to another Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's LA is an awesome place. It's, you know, obviously it's where I want to be because it's where the industry is.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's pretty cheap to survive, yet everything is expensive. So it's kind of a bit of an oxymoron.
Yeah. Who was your biggest supporter since you'd started off as an actor and then became a director and writer?
Well, since my father didn't want to really support the whole, you know, filmmaking thing, I guess my mom was more of a supporter in that sense. But at the same time, I think the biggest supporter for me or role model in life would have been Clint Eastwood.
Clint
So
Eastwood.
yeah, I kind of, if I ever felt down or I've ever felt that I, you know, needed some motivation, I would watch his movies, and his career I've kind of watched ever since I was a little boy, and his spaghetti westerns, you know, I used to love those and still do. In fact, like you know, spaghetti western is probably more entertaining than watching, you know, one of these big CGI films. But that's kind of what I use as motivation, and you know, I wasn't really surrounded or fortunate to be surrounded by film people at the age of 16 or, you know, as I got older. So, but yeah, my mom would always support the fact that I wanted to be a filmmaker. She was always like, go out there and, you know, do your thing. But she wasn't involved at all in the film industry, so she had no contacts. You know, for me, it was a case of going in completely dry with no experience or no how can I say, mentor figure to follow.
Yeah.
So it was kind of tough. So you can say I'm a slow learner because it's taken me a really long time to get to where I am.
Yeah. Well, you're at a pretty good spot, so I'm assuming you're not too slow a learner.
Well, maybe some people think I am, but I don't. I think I could be a lot better or a lot in a far bigger position. But you know, it is what it is, and I just got to keep pushing forward, keep fighting. It's a tough industry, as you know. A lot of people do the same thing.
Yeah.
And in LA, especially, every person you talk to is either a director, or a writer, or an actor. So the competition is really, really tough. But you know, it keeps us on our toes.
Yep. It keeps you alert.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips to give someone, such as the 16-year-old you, about how to go through with all of this?
Oh, heck yeah. There are so many tips I'd do. The biggest tip for me, and if I could do it all over again, is I would be very careful about who I mentor. And that's the problem, is when I first got into the industry, I was so hungry for, you know, for knowledge, and I was so passionate about the industry that I ended up tailing the wrong people that I thought were going to take me to places, but actually they didn't have the credibility. They pretended to, but they didn't. So I wasted many, many years mentoring and shadowing people that didn't actually take me anywhere. So yeah, I think a tip to teens that want to get involved in the film industry is really be careful of the people, or research the people that you want to mentor. Find out what niche you want to be in. Obviously, it takes time to find that niche, whether it is you want to be behind the camera or in front of the camera, or, you know, doing sound or CGI or computer work or whatever.
Yeah.
And then dive into that, rather than diving into something that you not necessarily want to be involved in, but people are telling you have to in order to work your way up the ladder. That's all hog's gollop. Because if you are passionate enough, you're going to work for free anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're going to work for free, then put that time into a place that you feel can actually get you somewhere. So that's something I would definitely change if I was, you know, younger, if I had started in the industry. And then another tip is for actors more than directors is I see a lot of actors who are hungry, they want experience, and they just throw themselves at any film. But I think it's important that as an actor to understand the industry, to know the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And by knowing the game, you ask the right questions to directors and producers that have certain films in the pipeline. And that is like questions like, has the script being reviewed? You know, have distributors seen it? Is there like an LOI at least? what genre is it? You know, because if you understand anything about the film industry, you'll know that if you're making a drama, for instance, and you have no name actors, it's going to be a very difficult film to sell because dramas are tough to sell. So, but if somebody comes to you with a script and says, "Hey, I have a horror, but we don't have any name actors," then at least you know, okay, the guy's done his research a little bit to understand that there is a big market for thrillers and horrors with no name actors. So you can still sell them even though you have no name actors. And then also, like, does the script have a pitch deck? Does the script have artwork? Does the script have has it been reviewed by a talent agency? You know, these are all things that are fairly cheap and inexpensive for a director to do, but kind of essential before you start bringing other talent in. And then, so that's a tip I have for actors: is know the game, you know, research it, ask the right questions before you throw yourself at any project, because it's your time, and time is important. Also, it's your credibility, because your face is on the picture. You know.
Yeah. If you're in something that gives you a bad name, that kind of it gave you a bad name.
Exactly. It's going to be harder for you to get yourself out of that than had you not done it at all. You know. And then for directors or teens that want to get involved in directing, my biggest tip, and this is a mistake I see a lot in LA, is directors will come onto a set and they'll say, okay, well, we got all our cameras, we got all our props, we got all our actors together, you know, we've done our homework, we've got a great script and everything. Now it's up to the actor to perform and make the scene work. And I think that's the biggest mistake, because the actors are the gold. You know, they're the the link between the story and the audience. So you have to channel all your energy into helping that actor bring out the best in that character, you know. But a lot of directors just think because they're actors, they know what they're doing and they understand the character. So that would be a tip for directors: is work with your actors, spend all that energy in helping them. Because what happens if your actor has a bad day? You know, he arrives on set, he's not feeling up to it, and you just like, oh, well, you're the actor, do your job. You know, you can't, you know, because you might have spent $200,000 on that one scene, and what, you're just going to wrap it up and say, okay, actor's having a bad day, let's call it a day for the day. So
or you don't stop and then you walk off saying, I wonder what was wrong today.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also, that terrible feeling when you walk off and you know you haven't done the best you can possibly do.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So yeah, to be an actor's director, I think, is more important than anything. And there are directors that just don't. You know, they're more the technical people, and then they'll bring in voice people, or they'll bring in you know, what do you call it, people that work with actors, like voice trainers and that, to help the actors get a better performance out of them. But really, at the end of the day, it's up to the director.
Yeah. What do you do in your free time besides editing?
Yeah. Well, I cycle a lot. I love exercise. Exercise to me is a very important part of my creative process, because it releases endorphins and the creative juices start flowing. I often have to record all my ideas onto my phone while I'm cycling. I took my private pilot's license several years ago, so in my spare time I'll fly. You know, I have a sort of passion for horses, so whenever I can find a horse, I'll grab it and disappear into the mountains. Yeah, and then just sailing as well is a big passion of mine, and that's generally you know, it takes a lot of time, because you get on a boat and you can't just kind of toot around the harbor. It's a real sail. So that's kind of what I do in my spare time. But all the time, you know, whether I'm doing sort of activities or spare time stuff, I'm always thinking about what's the film, you know, the film process, what's going to be in the next movie, how am I going to do this shot, what am I going to do in this edit.
That's dedication.
Yeah, that's it. It's a constant thing.
Yeah. If you could meet your role model, Clint Eastwood, what would you ask him?
You know what? I wouldn't ask him anything. I would just listen. I would just sit and listen to him. But I would want to be on one set with him, you know. And I wouldn't waste time asking him any questions, because I'm pretty sure that my questions are way under here where he's right up there. And I would really just want to listen to how he works with his actors, how he works with his crew, you know, how you know, just to hear stories and how he got to where he was, and you know, how people relate to him, how people treat him, and also to hear what people say about him, just to understand, you know, what it takes to be a successful director. But yeah, I would just want to listen to the guy. You just tell me anything, I'm all yours.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that from anyone yet. That's
yeah, he's awesome. And he's like, you know, it's a reminder too, when I'm having a bad day or something, I'd be like, well, Clint Eastwood, you know, he's in his late 70s or early 80s, and he's still pushing movies out, you know, like by the dozens. And, so I got time. What's the big hurry?
Yeah, you got time. You'll make it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll make it.
what is the toughest decision you've had to make?
Yeah, so I did a movie when I was 23 or 24. It was my very first film. We shot it on Super 16. It was awesome. I was like, I thought this was my big Hollywood break. So we spent, I think, 3 or 4 months on the film. Then we brought back in and had to get the telecine transfer. We did Foley on the film. We did ADR. We did everything that you would normally do on a film to get it as professional as possible. And then it finally came time for us to sit down and watch the film. And we were in the sound. I'll never forget. We were in the sound designer's studio, and he's like, "Right, all the pieces are together. We've got our CGI components and everything. It's time to sit and watch the film for any errors." And I remember watching it, and it felt so wrong. Like the flow was out. It didn't feel right. The performances were bad. There was just, a film gets a feel, gets like a life of its own. This film had no life. It just felt choppy and changing. It just didn't have a rhythm to it. And the hardest decision for me to make up to this point in my life was to take that film and put it in a box and never look at it or touch it again. Because if I tried to do anything with that movie, it would have done more damage to my career than had I just left it alone. So I walked away from it.
Really?
Yeah.
Just
walked away.
Still
And
haven't
I've
looked
never
at it?
even seen that movie since. It was terrible. It was a horrible film, and I've never watched it since, and I refuse to watch it. But it was school fees. It's like going to college. You learn.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford going to college, so I kind of put that film down as like a degree.
All right. Well, you learned from
Oh yeah.
that, so.
I learned. Yeah.
You learn from your mistakes.
And again, it's that is why I'm so specific about finishing a film the best way it can possibly be, because it's the actors that you don't want to make fools of, And fortunately, these weren't actors that were focusing on making acting a career. They were just like scouts and people I knew, and family and friends that I'd kind of pulled in. But let's say it had been an actor that is, relying on acting work as their career choice, I would have made an absolute fool out of him. So I vowed never again to do that.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite quote?
Yeah. So my favorite quote would be by Oscar Wilde, which is, "Life is too important to take seriously." So if I'm really, I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but if I'm really struggling and I feel pressured, I'll always just revise that quote to myself, because that's exactly it. I could be dead next week, and what's the point in getting all upset? What's the point of all the crisis and and drama and conflict that people can bring onto a set or into your life? And that's just the one thing I always hit myself with is, it's too important to take seriously. So, cast all that stuff away and just have fun. Just enjoy it. Make the best of it. Because you never know when it's going to be like time out.
Yeah. That's it for today.
So quick.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Means a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you. Great having you on the show.
I'm your host, Pascal Rehm. This was Sean Davy as our guest. And remember, you can do it. So what does your typical day look like as a wedding videographer, and what do you do in your free time?
So for my business, or for being a wedding videographer, I would say there's probably 2 typical days. So there's the typical editing day and the typical shooting day.